In our study, we investigate how giving animal livestream viewers the option to engage in viewer-animal interaction in the livestream affects the livestreaming experience for the human and the non-human stakeholders. We introduced MeowPlayLive, a livestreaming system that enables viewers to interact with a cat in the livestream by sending voice messages. Our real-life deployment of MeowPlayLive in actual cat livestreams highlights the potential viewer-animal interaction has on enhancing the viewer experience, strengthening the viewer's attachment to the cat, and positively transforming the streamer-cat relationship.